The higher the tariff, the more likely the company will leave the US and build a factory somewhere else. Right now, that's exactly what's happening. Coca-Cola cans, made in Canada. GM trucks, assembled in Ontario. Tesla batteries, cast in Quebec. America's biggest brands are packing up and moving north, and tariffs may be to blame. In today's report, we uncover how steel and aluminum tariffs, rising energy costs, and slow US regulations are triggering a manufacturing exodus to Canada. Before we dive in, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. You won't want to miss what's next. Part 1: The Boomerang Effect. President Trump just doubled tariffs on steel and aluminum to 50%, calling it a move to protect national security. But here's what really happened. GM and Ford immediately cancelled US frame orders. Alcoa froze maintenance on its Tennessee smelter. Campbell Soup pulled its investment out of Ohio. And $7.2 billion in manufacturing capital quietly disappeared from the US. That money could have built 4 electric battery factories, but instead, it fled across the 49th parallel. Part 2: America bleeds jobs, Canada gets the boom. Over 25,000 jobs in Ohio, Michigan, and Georgia are now at risk. Why? Because Canada is offering what the US no longer can: electricity at half the cost. Permits in just 90 days. Billions in clean tech incentives. Zero carbon energy sources. In Ontario, Hydro-Quebec sells power at just 3.7 cents per kilowatt-hour. In Detroit, over 10 cents. That one difference saves companies tens of millions every year. Part 3: Major US companies are leaving. Let's take a closer look at the corporate giants making their exit from American soil, and why they're heading straight for Canada. Coca-Cola. For years, Coca-Cola relied on US-sourced aluminum to produce its iconic red cans. But when tariffs pushed the cost of aluminum up by 27%, the math no longer made sense. Now, Coca-Cola is importing over 800 million empty aluminum cans annually from Canada, where aluminum is cheaper and cleaner thanks to Hydro-Quebec's low-emission power grid. The result? US canning plants are cutting shifts while Canadian facilities run 24/7. Walmart shelves in Detroit now stock Coca-Cola cans labeled "Product of Canada," a quiet but powerful symbol of shifting supply chains. Campbell Soup. The red and white can brand immortalized by Andy Warhol is no longer just an American icon. With US metal tariffs threatening to add up to $90 million a year in packaging costs, Campbell Soup had to act. The company has now moved large parts of its canning and cold storage operations to Ontario, where they avoid tariffs, benefit from faster permit approvals, and take advantage of Canada's affordable industrial electricity. Campbell's CFO admitted, "We either move production or burn cash." The move is saving them millions, and at the same time, bleeding revenue from US suppliers. Alcoa. One of America's oldest industrial players, Alcoa, has also thrown in the towel, at least on US soil. Rising electricity costs and punishing tariffs made their Indiana smelter unsustainable. In contrast, Quebec offered them hydropower at just 3.7 cents per kilowatt-hour, nearly half the cost of coal and gas-fired US plants. In December 2024, Alcoa signed a massive power deal through 2040, guaranteeing low-cost, clean energy for its 3 Canadian smelters. Now, more aluminum will be produced in Canada, and imported back into the US, than at any time in the company's history. General Motors, GM didn't hesitate when the 50% tariffs hit. It immediately cancelled parts contracts and announced a massive $2.6 billion United States dollars investment in 2 new Canadian plants, one in St. Catharines, Ontario, and another in Bécancour, Quebec. These facilities will produce everything from Ultium battery components to electric drive units for EVs like the Chevrolet Silverado and Cadillac Lyriq. Meanwhile, back in Michigan, GM is preparing to furlough over 1,300 workers, with supply chain partners facing even deeper cuts. GM's board made it clear, Canada offers a cheaper, faster, and more stable path forward. Tesla. While much of the media was focused on Tesla's US operations, Elon Musk was quietly laying the groundwork for something big in Canada. In Valleyfield, Quebec, Tesla is building a 4,680 battery materials plant that will form the backbone of its EV battery production, powered entirely by clean hydroelectricity. This move sidesteps US tariffs, slashes electricity costs, and positions Tesla to export zero-carbon batteries to Europe and beyond, something nearly impossible under current US conditions. Ford. At one point, Ford was planning to shut down its massive Oakville plant in Ontario. The facility, once a crown jewel of North American auto manufacturing, was on the verge of being mothballed due to high costs and uncertain future plans. But that all changed when Canadian incentives, infrastructure, and energy economics tipped the scale. Instead of closing, Ford made a bold move. It committed a staggering $2.3 billion United States dollars to completely transform the Oakville complex into a next-generation electric vehicle, EV, manufacturing hub. This is not a retrofit. It's a ground-up reinvention. The plant will now be capable of producing up to 100,000 EVs per year by 2026, with a focus on the F-Series Super Duty in EV-ready form, one of Ford's most iconic and profitable vehicle lines. What made Canada the obvious choice? Two big reasons: clean, cheap electricity and fast-track government support. Oakville's operations will run on 90% emissions-free electricity, thanks to Ontario's unique mix of hydro and nuclear power. That dramatically lowers the life cycle emissions of each EV, a critical factor now that Europe, California, and other markets are tightening CO2 import standards. Plus, this clean energy comes at a fraction of US industrial power prices. In Ontario, Ford pays around 5 to 6 cents per kilowatt hour. In comparison, similar plants in the US, especially in states like Michigan or Kentucky, face rates nearing 11 to 12 cents per kilowatt hour. That difference may seem small at first, but for an EV plant consuming terawatt-hours of power annually, it adds up to tens of millions in annual savings. But it doesn't stop there. The Canadian government, both federal and provincial, stepped up with a combined $500 million CAD incentive package to support the transition. This includes tax credits, wage subsidies, skills training programs, and even investment in surrounding EV infrastructure like charging networks and supplier logistics. Meanwhile, a nearly identical Ford EV project in Michigan is stalled. Why? A sluggish 26-month environmental review process that has yet to produce approvals, and no clear date for construction to begin. Worse yet, that project faces double the electricity costs and zero guarantee of clean energy supply, which could cripple exports to Europe's green markets. This single strategic pivot by Ford sends a loud message. Canada is now a more efficient, greener, and more business-friendly place to build the vehicles of the future. And if one of America's most iconic automakers is making that shift, others will surely follow. Part 4: Canada's industrial comeback. Canada is now the hotspot for North American manufacturing. Why? Fast permits. Canada approves major industrial projects in 3 months. The US, up to 2 years. Clean energy. Canadian factories run on low-emission hydro and nuclear. Giant subsidies. Canada is investing $52.5 billion CAD in EV and battery production. Supply chain support. From nickel and steel to aluminum and logistics, everything is local and green. Local papers now call Niagara the Battery Valley of North America. And with Tesla, Ford, and GM anchoring there, they may be right.